good morning, all my lovely artists and little freaks, geeks, queers, steers, weirdos. I am here to tell you about my favorite graphite products that are just a little bit out there, a little bit odd, a little bit weird. Now, I adore drawing with graphite. For a lot of artists, it's usually the first thing any of us really use to make a mark on a piece of paper. You can hear my birds today. I'm trying to film during the day. It's a nightmare. These things are just, they're so loud. I love them. I love my birds so much. But yeah, you've probably drawn with graphite, whether or not you're an artist. It's one of the first things people often use. It's so incredibly common as an art material. We literally give out pencils free of charge. Its common use in artistry and history is recorded back to about 4,500 BCE. They used it in pottery in the Boeotian culture for their geographic designs. I can't read very well. I can't pronounce anything. I'm going to do really great in a foreign country trying to learn a new language. Yay! But birders. But of course, not all art supplies are created equal. Not all graphites are created equal. And I wanted to review these specific bit out there ones to show you guys how to use them and how to potentially integrate them into your art practice. First up, we have Art Graphite Putty. This stuff is very, very weird, very, very odd, and I'm very glad I got to get and try it. It comes in a little sealable pouch. It can come in a little ceramic container, but I didn't bother with that. It is quite wet, that's why it's in a little container. It does make the working time of it a little bit tricky. It can dry out quite quickly. It can dry out quite quickly and become quite crumbly in your hands and even on the paper. But if you make the effort to really get used to this product and really get used to how it works, it is absolutely worth it. Placing down a graphite ground is so much easier with this. It provides a very smooth surface and it doesn't mark the paper in the same way a pencil or even a stick of graphite might, where indents are made. It's a lot more softer whilst also leaving marks. And because it's so malleable, because it's such a putty, it can be a lot more easily built up in tone, so you can kind of build on it a lot easier. It's also water soluble, so it can be used as a wash. So if you wanted to develop your ground or develop any part of your painting with a brush, with water, you can do that, and it results in a very nice, very non-granulated kind of result. While some people have used it to mold it into specific shapes, and I'm pretty sure the manufacturer says you can do that, I don't really bother with that. I find that it is a much better product for larger, broader strokes or establishing a whole piece of paper with it, or just like really basic shapes. It's excellent for like even really rough sketching. It can be very good for that. The main drawback on this one is that it does cause a lot of mess on your hands and any surface you happen to touch or it happens to even sit on. That drawback is made better by the fact you don't actually need to use any personal protective equipment to use this product. It can get on your hands. It's, because it's a putty, you can't breathe it in. It's incredibly safe to use. Well, so the manufacturer says. If it's not, then that's on them, because I've gotten this stuff all over my hands before. I do use gloves because it's just a bit easier to clean up that way. Art Graph brand is the only specific drawing putty I've been able to find, at least in person, and I prefer buying things and testing things in person than buying it online and testing it. I can only really recommend this brand so far, but if you find a different putty, definitely check it out. Overall as a medium, it is quite useful to use. The price for a bag like that runs about 30 bucks Australian, and it goes up to 50 depending on how much you want or whether you want the little container. And it is definitely a worthwhile little product to get if you're looking to expand your graphite drawing, if you're wanting to really experiment with different materials and different graphites. Second kind of weird product for graphite, we have the Langridge dry pigment graphite powder. I use this Langridge brand because they provide provenance of all their pigmented products. This means that, you know, they know where it comes from, they know where it's sourced, they mill it themselves down in Melbourne, it's all based in Australia, and I also love to support local businesses, local manufacturing, very important. However, you can use any fine ground graphite, including making your own if that's what you're into. This is where we do a big stop. This is where I show you the warning label on this jar. Graphite can be dangerous to use if you are making your own powders. This is also dangerous. Follow some safety instructions. There are plenty online. Wear a mask, wear gloves. This is not something to just play around with. It is serious, and if you breathe it in, you will damage your lungs. Graphite as a material lends itself to opacity and layering. Its application as a powder with either smudging tools like your fingies or a brush allows for a much more subtle tone development on your picture. It's good for both details and backgrounds. It is very easily feathered out into like clouds and very like there's no lines or anything, very non-distinct shapes. And you can manipulate it very easily afterwards with erasing methods and you know, those little paper smudge stick things. I don't know, I've got like a bunch of them, never use them. While it is a decent product to develop a ground with on your paper, its strengths do lie with it using it as a sort of fill and remove medium, layering it over itself to create depth. I've had some issues with the granules of it causing a lot of streaks and a lot of lines being created. However, I found that was mostly due to user error where I was pressing too hard or I wasn't preparing the surface correctly. Application of this stuff with a dry brush, nice fluffy brush is my favorite. I also use a very fine brush if I'm doing very specific details. I have been able to use it successfully with cotton pads, like the makeup pads, and Q-tips have provided some pretty decent results. You just got to be really careful with the pressure that you use with those ones. Also should be mentioned, this one is not water soluble, so don't try painting with this one. I have made that mistake. One big thing, however, with this product is that unlike many other graphites, including the putty, it is a studio only kind of product, or inside, just wherever you are, avoid the wind. Don't even have a fan on near you. You need to be wearing personal protective equipment while using this, which is gloves, a mask, eyewear. It is a fine powder. It will mess up your lungs if you breathe it in, if you sneeze in it and it goes everywhere. If it goes everywhere and it's really difficult to clean up, it is a nightmare to deal with, and you do have to be very careful. Well, the need for care is outweighed by how useful this product is. Like, you can't go outside sketching with this, and as much as it's environmentally friendly, or it comes from nature, it comes from the rocks in the ground, you don't really want this going into the environment. We don't want our native animals to be just huffing graphite. We don't want our little bumblebees taking that stuff back to their hives. Honorable mention for the last product of being weird and interesting as a graphite product is the Technello RGB Caran d'Ache pencils and graphite sticks. It is my least used graphite product. It's probably even my least used artist product. I don't actually think these pencils have even been used. They've still got the original sharpening on them. These are all water soluble and they have very subtle color tones in them. So you've got green, you've got red and blue, RGB. Unlike colored pencils that have a waxy tip to really deposit pigment onto the paper and keep it there, the color of the graphite itself is what's causing the color. It's not an external dyed thing. It's not something that, you know, you have to worry about, in that you can treat these exactly like graphite. You can smudge them and draw them and wash them exactly like you would a graphite system of drawing. But yes, I have found very little use for these on a technical level. They are Caran d'Ache, so they are very good quality. I wouldn't necessarily recommend buying them, but if you happen to get them, or if these colors or styles are something that you are looking for, yeah, these are totally be worth it. I've only ever gotten them as extras when buying other things. So I know I got the graphite sticks when I bought a larger Caran d'Ache set, and I'm pretty sure I got these ones when I was buying some other, just some pens at a pen shop, and they just said, oh, you want some of these? And I'm like, I'm not gonna say no. So if you are looking to expand your drawing materials repertoire, looking to get into something interesting and out there, and getting into more experimental graphite drawing techniques, these are the products that honestly helped me get into much more experimental stuff. I have created many, many good works of art, both realistic and abstract with these, and it has been something that I've honestly really enjoyed and had fun doing. Oh my god, bad eyes! I've had fun drawing with these. Now, if you're looking to purchase anything like this, always go to your independent... every time. Always go to your independent art shop first, see if they can order it in for you. Go give them some support. If that's a bit prohibitive for you, the big box retailers, your big online retailers, they'll have some available. And for things like graphite, I'm pretty sure you can get them in some hardware stores as well. As to the quality of it for drawing, I'm unsure, but it'd be cheap enough to experiment with. Absolutely worth it. One last secret tip. If you're into graphite drawing, you probably already know this, but if you're just looking for some fun tips and some fun ways to have abstract drawing methods, absolutely get a workable, fixable setting spray for them. It will allow you to build up those layers better, it'll stop your hand from smudging things, and it will preserve the drawing as you frame it or put it somewhere. Maybe just put it in a book somewhere. But yes, have a lovely rest of your Tuesday. I am going to a psychiatry appointment because I really need to get this ADHD diagnosis. Video about that coming on Friday.